A black widow walks into a bank, seeking a simple loan to start over. But the young white banker across the desk, he mocks her. He refuses her. He humiliates her in front of everyone. Little did he know, the woman he's belittling is about to become his boss, and not just any boss, the owner of the very bank he thought he controlled. But to understand how Angela Harris, a widow struggling to make ends meet, turned the tables on the arrogant banker, we need to go back to where her story began. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and subscribe to hear more incredible stories of courage and justice. Angela Harris stepped into Caldwell Bank with a quiet determination that belied the weight she carried. She had lost her husband and her only son in a single tragic accident, leaving her alone, burdened with bills and struggling to make ends meet. Her world had been stripped away, and yet she had survived. Today she walked into the bank not to boast, not to prove herself, but to request the loan a chance to rebuild, to create a future from the fragments left behind. Her credit history was impeccable, a testament to the careful management she and her late husband had maintained, but she knew paper could not measure resilience, intelligence, or the strength forged from tragedy. Across the polished desk sat Richard Caldwell, young, confident, and oblivious to the life she had endured. His eyes swept over her modest jacket, her practical shoes, the quiet dignity in her posture, and he smiled faintly, a smirk that spoke more of judgment than welcome. "And what brings you here today?" he asked, voice smooth but edged with disbelief, as if her very presence challenged the order of his world. Angela responded clearly, calmly, explaining that she was seeking a loan to start a new chapter in her life, to build something meaningful despite the hardships she had faced, to turn the memory of her family into purpose. She spoke precisely, every word deliberate, every syllable measured. He barely listened. He leaned back slightly, fingers tapping his desk, and whispered something to the staff nearby, words meant to belittle, to provoke, to remind her of her place. But Angela had faced grief that no whisper could break. She had survived storms far harsher than condescension or prejudice. Her eyes met his, steady, unflinching, observing every flicker of arrogance in his expression. "Your husband's history might look impressive on paper," he said, "but times have changed. Someone like you might struggle to keep up with our requirements." Every word was polite on the surface, but carried the weight of subtle judgment, bias, and disbelief. Angela heard it all, catalogued it silently, and let it strengthen her resolve. She thought of the nights she had spent staring at the ceiling, wondering how she would survive, how she would pay the bills, how she would honor the memory of the family she had lost. She thought of every obstacle she had faced alone, every setback overcome with nothing but intelligence, discipline, and sheer will. And she let that fire guide her words. She explained again that she was fully capable of managing a loan responsibly, that her plans were sound, and that her life experience had prepared her for responsibility, even if the world refused to see it. Richard's smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. He had expected hesitation, uncertainty, fear. He had expected tears, excuses, a quiet surrender. Instead he met composure, intelligence, and a quiet fire he could not touch. He tried again. "Experience? In what exactly? Handling personal finances? That hardly prepares you for a loan of this size." His words were carefully chosen, designed to humiliate, to diminish, to remind her of the difference he believed existed between them. Angela listened, letting every insult pass through her, cataloging it in silence. She noticed the staff shifting nervously, clients glancing over, the air in the lobby thick with tension. Every slight, every assumption, every whisper was now evidence, waiting for the moment it would matter most. Her thoughts wandered briefly. not away from the confrontation, but inward, to the life that had been stolen from her, her husband's laughter, her son's voice, the home that had once been full of warmth. She remembered the financial discipline they had shared, the careful planning, the perseverance. That knowledge gave her strength. She let Richard talk, let him display his arrogance, his ignorance, his belief in his absolute authority. And all the while she remained poised, patient, calculating. She was not here to beg. She was here to endure, to observe, and to wait for the moment when the world would see her for who she truly was. The staff continued to shuffle nervously, and the murmurs of other clients filled the silent spaces between their words. Richard tapped his pen against the desk, attempting to assert dominance, attempting to remind her that the hierarchy he imagined was real. "I am simply ensuring the bank is protected," he said, but the irritation in his voice betrayed him. Angela did not respond immediately. She allowed him to speak, to reveal the full extent of his arrogance, his bias, his blind sense of control. Every condescending phrase, every subtle insult, every dismissive glance built a record in her mind. She would remember this. She would wait. And when the time came, every assumption, every sneer, every whispered doubt would turn to her advantage. Angela Harris placed her folder carefully on the desk, each movement deliberate, every gesture calm. Richard Caldwell's eyes swept over her, lingering a fraction too long on her skin, her attire, her modest presence. "I must say," he began, leaning back with a smirk, "it's unusual to see someone like you requesting a loan of this size. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this from, well, you." The words were casual, but the implication was clear. He doubted her because she was black, because he could not imagine someone like her handling serious responsibility. Angela's gaze did not waver. She had faced far worse than a privileged young man's prejudice. "I am here to request a loan, and I have prepared every detail required. My credit history is sound, and I understand the responsibility involved," she said, steady, calm, precise. Richard's smirk deepened, bordering on a sneer. "Prepared, sure. But I've rarely seen someone from your background take on this kind of financial responsibility. You know, handling numbers, managing obligations, making decisions that affect people. It's complicated. Do you really think you can do it?" His words dripped with disbelief, with the assumption that her race alone limited her intelligence and capability. Angela remained still, letting the room absorb the tension. The whispers of staff grew louder. Other clients glanced over, sensing the silent battle. "I understand the requirements, and I am fully capable of fulfilling them," she said evenly. "My background does not define my ability. I am prepared, and I will meet every obligation." Richard leaned forward, voice sharper now, eyes narrowing. "You're confident, I'll give you that, but confidence isn't enough. The bank can't take risks on someone like you. I mean, loans of this size require finesse, experience, understanding, judgment. Someone in your position, alone, no family support, no ongoing enterprise. Statistically, people like you fail." The words were heavy with prejudice, the room thickening with his audacity. Angela's mind catalogued every insult, every implication, every whispered assumption. She allowed him to speak, let him display his ignorance, arrogance, and racial bias, knowing that the staff, the clients, the air itself were witnesses to his hubris. "I am not asking for charity, nor am I asking for assumptions about my abilities," she said firmly. "I am asking for an opportunity to demonstrate competence, responsibility, and capability. That is all." Richard's frustration grew visibly. He waved the folder as if authority could be asserted through motion. "You think a little preparation, some paperwork and confidence can overcome the reality of your limitations. I see it every day. People like you trying to rise beyond what's expected. and failing. I cannot approve this loan. Not for someone like you." Angela allowed a controlled breath, calm but burning with a quiet fire. She noticed the staff glancing nervously at Richard. The murmurs among clients, the air tense and expectant. Each insult, each racial slight, each condescending judgment was now a record in her mind, a growing ledger of arrogance and prejudice she would use to her advantage. Richard's voice grew sharper, almost defensive. "I mean, honestly, you're ambitious, I'll give you that, but ambition can only take you so far. It cannot erase reality. People with your background are rarely prepared for decisions of this magnitude. I don't doubt your intentions, but I do doubt your capacity." Angela did not respond immediately. She let the silence emphasize the truth of the room. His arrogance, his prejudice, his ignorance, all fully on display. She remained poised, calm, unshaken. Every word he spoke exposed his weakness, his assumption that her race defined her limits. And all the while she catalogued it, stored it, let the tension grow. The staff shifted uneasily, the clients leaned forward, some whispering, some wide-eyed. The battle was no longer just about a loan, it was about power, perception, and who would control the room. Angela Harris placed her folder carefully on the desk, steady and calm. As Richard Caldwell's eyes lingered a moment too long on her skin, her modest clothes, her presence. Before she could respond, another figure stepped forward, Bradley, a senior loan officer, his posture radiating arrogance. Bradley sneered, voice loud enough for nearby staff to hear. "I can't believe we're even entertaining this. Look at her. A woman walking in here, asking for a loan like she belongs at this level. Do you really think someone like her knows what she's doing?" Richard chuckled, leaning back, eyes glinting with shared disdain. "I know she doesn't. Honestly, look at her. She's out of place. I can't imagine the bank surviving if we handed this over to someone like her." Bradley laughed harshly. "Seriously, people like her, they always overestimate themselves. Rarely, if ever, do they handle responsibility. The last thing we need is someone like this, managing anything substantial." Richard nodded, voice sharp, cutting through the room. "Exactly. She's inexperienced, unprepared, and let's be honest, not built for this kind of responsibility. Do you really expect anyone here to take her seriously?" Angela remained still, letting the words wash over her, every insult, every racial slight, catalogued and stored. Staff shifted uncomfortably, whispers growing louder. Clients glanced over, some shocked, some quietly judging. The two men fed off each other's prejudice, each one escalating the humiliation. Bradley leaned closer, voice dripping with mockery. "Look at her. Sitting there thinking she belongs in a place like this. Honestly, I've seen plenty of people like her try. It never ends well. Banks aren't made for people like her." Richard added, louder, almost enjoying the spectacle. "I mean, she should be grateful we even let her speak to us. Do you really think she understands the kind of decisions this bank makes? People with her background, they usually fail before they even start." The tension in the room was suffocating. Angela's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the arrogance and prejudice confronting her. Every word they spoke was meant to crush her, diminish her, make her feel invisible. Yet she catalogued every insult, every sneer, every racist judgment. She let the room feel their hatred, their certainty that she could not succeed because of her skin. Bradley scoffed, shaking his head. "It's just reality. She doesn't have the experience, the upbringing, the connections. Look at her face. Do you really think she can make decisions that affect the bank and clients? People like her rarely can." Richard laughed outright this time. "Exactly. Ambition isn't enough. Talent isn't enough. She's black, and that's just the reality. She won't survive here. She doesn't belong here. Angela did not speak. She did not react. Every insult, every condescending comment, every racial slight was etched into her mind. The staff shifted nervously, whispers spreading, clients staring in disbelief. The two men thought they had total control, that their prejudice defined the room. But Angela's calm fire was growing. She catalogued it all. As Angela remained calm, letting Richard and Bradley rain insults upon her, the doors to the bank swung open. A young man, barely out of his 20s, strode up to the counter with a casual grin. Clothes flashy, confidence exaggerated. He carried nothing but a sense of entitlement. "Hey, I need a loan quick," he said loudly, tossing a folder onto the counter. Richard immediately straightened, eyes lighting up. Bradley leaned closer, whispering something with a smirk. The young man's voice carried through the tense room. "I want to buy a yacht. Yep, a big one. I've got ideas, you know." Richard chuckled and waved his hand as if dismissing Angela entirely. "Oh, we can handle this immediately, and no problem at all." Bradley nodded, almost gleeful, tapping his pen impatiently. The contrast was stark. Angela, carefully prepared, asking for a loan to rebuild her life, was being belittled and insulted, while this young man, reckless and inexperienced, was given instant approval. The young man glanced at Angela as he signed the papers, a cocky grin spreading across his face. "What's the matter, lady?" he sneered, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. "Never seen someone like me get what they want? Guess some people just can't handle life, huh?" Richard and Bradley laughed along with him, their arrogance feeding off one another. "See," Bradley said, nodding toward Angela, "this is how things work here. Some people just, belong, and others don't." Richard leaned back, smirking, clearly enjoying the spectacle. "Exactly. Prepared or not, some people will never fit the mold. But someone like him? Instant approval. No questions asked." The contrast between her treatment and the young man's reckless approval was painfully obvious. The young man, oblivious to the tension he was creating, turned again toward her, mockery dripping from his words. "You're still waiting, huh? Don't worry, I'm sure someday they'll let someone like you handle a loan. Maybe." He laughed loudly, drawing more attention from the lobby. Angela inhaled slowly, calm and precise. She did not respond. She let the room feel the full weight of the injustice, the blatant racism, the favoritism, the humiliation. Every word spoken, every laugh, every condescending glance was etched into her mind, forming the ledger of arrogance and prejudice she would one day turn against them. Richard and Bradley shared a victorious glance, smug in their shared sense of superiority. Angela sat perfectly still, keeping her composure, her hands resting lightly on the folder before her. But the tension in the room was only increasing. Richard and Bradley, already feeding off each other's arrogance, began turning their attention to the other clients in the bank. Two older black customers entered, moving slowly toward the counter to discuss a routine deposit. Almost immediately, the subtle disdain in Richard's and Bradley's expressions became obvious. "You'll have to wait," Richard said sharply, his voice carrying over the room. "This line is for serious business. You understand, right?" The words were polite on the surface, but dripping with condescension and prejudice. Bradley smirked, leaning slightly toward Richard. "Honestly, they should have come at a better time. Things like this can be, confusing. Maybe someone else should handle it." His tone was loud enough for the older couple to hear, the implication unmistakable. They were out of place, not worthy, merely because of their color. Angela's heart tightened as she watched. The couple's posture stiffened, their faces a mix of hurt and exhaustion. One of them tried to speak, explain their simple request, but Bradley waved them off, almost laughing. "Not now, sir. We're busy. Maybe you can come back later." Richard nodded, clearly enjoying the display. "Yes, it's complicated. You might not understand everything that's required here. Perhaps you should wait your turn and make sure all your papers are in order next time." He didn't even look at them directly. His dismissiveness was absolute. Angela felt a wave of quiet fury, but she remained calm, cataloging every act, every word, every sneer. She noticed the staff following Richard and Bradley's lead, some whispering among themselves, others treating the older black customers with impatience or ignoring them entirely. Each interaction added layers to the injustice, each humiliation a reminder of how deep prejudice ran in this room. The older couple finally stepped back, murmuring apologies, heads bowed slightly as if their very presence had been a mistake. Angela's eyes followed them, absorbing the fear, the resignation, the indignity forced upon them. She realized she was witnessing the full spectrum of discrimination here, not just against her, but against anyone who shared her skin color. Meanwhile, Richard and Bradley returned their attention to her, smug with the knowledge of their perceived superiority, unaware that every act of prejudice, every insult hurled at the elderly couple, or at Angela herself, was being silently recorded, filed away for the moment when the tables would turn. Angela allowed their arrogance to fill the room, every whispered insult, every cold dismissal, every racist comment strengthening her resolve. Clients in the bank watched, some shifting uncomfortably, some whispering to each other. The contrast was clear. The young, irresponsible white man had just been approved for an absurd loan. 2 elderly black customers had been humiliated for the simplest of requests, and Angela, a highly capable woman, had been mocked and belittled at every step. The injustice was palpable, a living thing pressing down on the room. Angela's calm fire burned hotter in response. She did not speak. Every act of racism, every humiliating interaction she witnessed, was being stored in her mind. The day would come, she whispered to herself. As Angela sat there, enduring Richard and Bradley's escalating humiliation, she noticed the young teller, a quiet, unassuming man named Ethan, watching her intently. He had been a long-time employee at the bank, known for his technical skills and discretion. Earlier, before Richard and Bradley arrived, Ethan had tried to speak with her subtly, leaning in and whispering, I knew your husband. He left something here. I think you should know." Angela had barely caught his words and had assumed he was referring to some mundane banking detail. She hadn't realized there was something far bigger he was hinting at, a secret her husband had quietly arranged years ago. Now, as Richard and Bradley entered, their arrogance turning the room into a stage for overt racism, Ethan's demeanor shifted. He observed every insult, every condescending remark, every humiliating dismissal directed at Angela and the older black clients. His eyes flicked between her and the arrogant men, a mixture of worry and resolve crossing his face. When Bradley mocked Angela and Richard approved the young white man's absurd loan right in front of her, Ethan subtly intervened. Perhaps he moved papers to shield her documents, or quietly adjusted the system so she wouldn't be further delayed small acts, invisible to the oppressors but meaningful. At one point, as Richard barked orders and Bradley laughed at Angela's expense, Ethan leaned in slightly, just enough for her to hear. "You don't know it yet, but your husband made sure you're more protected than you realize. Just stay calm." Angela didn't fully understand, but something in his tone hinted at a secret she had never known. Ethan couldn't speak more openly. The bank had become hostile, overtly racist, and any direct action could put her at risk. Yet his presence and subtle assistance gave her an unspoken advantage. Every move he made, every small intervention, was a quiet rebellion against the injustice around her, a hint that she was not entirely alone. Angela, still composed, catalogued everything, the insults, the racial prejudice, the absurd favoritism toward the young white man, and now added Ethan's subtle gestures to the ledger of events. She didn't yet know what he knew or how it would help, but she sensed that the tide was shifting in ways the arrogant bankers could never foresee. Angela Harris sat in the bank, her hands resting lightly on the folder before her, cataloging every insult, every sneer, every whisper of disdain. Richard Caldwell's eyes darted constantly, watching her as if her mere presence was a provocation. Bradley stood beside him, smirking, arms crossed, clearly enjoying the show. Ethan, standing behind the counter, had leaned closer, whispering almost imperceptibly, "I can try to get this to someone higher, someone who can approve this. Just stay calm." Angela caught only fragments of his words. She nodded slightly, unsure what he meant, but aware of his intent to help. At that moment, her phone rang. She glanced at it. The name of her family lawyer appeared. Heart skipping, she answered. "Angela, where are you?" "I just got to your house. You weren't there. Listen, this is urgent. I need your signature. Can you wait for me? I'll be there in half an hour." Angela's voice remained calm. "I'm at the bank. I'll wait." "Good. Don't leave. This can't wait. It's important. I'll be there soon." The line went dead. Angela exhaled slowly, keeping her composure. She looked at Ethan, who gave her a subtle nod, acknowledging the timing. He had been trying quietly to send her requests to someone higher in the bank, and now the moment felt heavier, more urgent. Bradley noticed Ethan leaning toward her folder, pressing buttons on the terminal, subtly trying to escalate her loan request. His smirk twisted into a sneer. "What's this?" he barked. "Trying to sneak your way past us? What is this little stunt, huh?" Richard's eyes narrowed, amusement and irritation battling. "You're doing what now? You think we don't see you? Trying to play games in our bank?" Angela remained calm, glancing down at the folder, trying not to respond immediately. She felt the tension building, the room thick with hostility. Bradley leaned over, voice louder, crueler. "Oh, I see. She's attempting to bypass the proper channels, isn't she? Trying to get someone else to approve her loan while the rest of us are stuck watching." Richard laughed harshly, the sound echoing off the walls. "Typical. Always scheming, always trying to get ahead. Do you really think anyone here will take you seriously? Look at you, trying to manipulate the system. You're pathetic." Bradley's laughter joined his, sharper, mocking, cutting into Angela like a knife. "Pathetic doesn't even begin to cover it. You're a joke. Trying to sneak a loan through behind our backs while we're right here? Honestly, I don't know whether to laugh or cry." Angela felt her jaw tighten, but she did not move, did not flinch. She watched Bradley smirk and Richard's amusement, cataloging every word, every movement. The staff behind the counter shifted nervously, some glancing at her with sympathy, others too afraid to intervene. Bradley's voice grew louder, more aggressive. "Do you hear yourself? Trying to play the system while we're right here? What kind of person does that? You think being clever makes up for this?" He gestured at her skin, at the implied insult hovering in the air. "You don't belong here. You don't belong in this bank, in this world, trying to get what others earn through effort and intellect." Richard leaned forward, voice sharp, voice rising over the murmurs of other clients. "Exactly. I mean, look at her. Sitting there, thinking she can manipulate the process. She can't even see how foolish it is, can she?" Angela's eyes flicked to the older black couple waiting near the counter. They avoided eye contact, heads bowed, shifting uneasily. The humiliation Richard and Bradley heaped on her now seemed to extend to every black person in the room. She could feel it, the injustice radiating outward, pressing against the walls, suffocating the space. Bradley stepped closer, lowering his voice in a venomous whisper, meant to be heard just by Angela. You think you can fool us? You think a little trick, a little scheme will get you past people like us? You're dreaming, sweetheart. Nothing here belongs to someone like you. Richard slammed his hand lightly on the counter, drawing the attention of staff and clients alike. That's right. People like you. Always trying, always failing, and now trying to sneak your way to approval while we watch. I want you out of my bank. Angela remained still, feeling the rising heat of humiliation, but keeping her mind clear. Ethan glanced at her, subtle but urgent, continuing to manipulate the system quietly, attempting to get a request through. Bradley noticed this and scoffed. Oh, I see. Bradley laughed, cruel and sharp. Not only is she trying to sneak a loan past us, but she's got little helpers now. Look at this teamwork. Who are you working with, huh? Tell me. Who is helping the little black widow try to play with the big boys? Richard chuckled, leaning back, enjoying the spectacle. Yes, come on, tell us. Who is helping you, little lady? You think someone here will actually approve you? Do you even realize what you're asking? Or is this just entertainment for you? The tension in the bank escalated to almost unbearable levels. Staff and clients froze, watching the spectacle. The young white man, meanwhile, still being processed for his absurd loan, smirked at Angela. You're really trying something, huh? Little tricks, trying to get what you can't earn. Funny. Pathetic. Angela kept her composure, breathing slowly, her eyes scanning the room, taking in every insult, every condescending laugh, every act of racism. She felt the weight of the humiliation pressing on her chest, felt the anger rising, but she catalogued it, measured it, allowed it to grow into a quiet fire. Ethan's subtle gestures continued, unnoticed by Richard and Bradley. A folder slid across a terminal, a signature field highlighted, a system prompt triggered small technical maneuvers meant to get her request to a higher authority without the oppressors noticing. Bradley noticed a slight movement. What's that? He barked. What is she doing now? Don't tell me she's trying again. Richard leaned closer, voice rising in venom. Yes, exactly. Don't think we won't see it. Trying to sneak past us again, huh? You're a joke. And everyone here knows it. I want you out of my bank. Now. Angela's phone buzzed again. Another message from her lawyer. I'm on my way. Signature needed immediately. Wait for me there. She exhaled, keeping her composure. Her life, her future, was about to collide with the very injustice she was enduring. Bradley, noticing her subtle acknowledgement of the message, smirked viciously. Ah, look at that. She's hiding behind messages now, planning her escape while we're speaking to her. Typical. Richard nodded, leaning back, the picture of smug authority. Yes, planning, scheming, hiding behind little tricks and messages, and who knows, maybe her helpers will finish it for her. But it won't matter. Not here. Not in this bank. You're out of your league, lady. Angela sat unmoving, watching the chaos around her. The young white man continued laughing. The older black couple cowered in the corner, and the staff looked on nervously. Yet amidst all of this, Ethan's subtle actions persisted, small movements of resistance, quietly pushing her request forward without anyone noticing. Bradley leaned close, voice venomous, shouting so the room could hear. I said, get out! You're not welcome here. Trying to manipulate the system? Using helpers? Pathetic! I've never seen someone like you think she belongs anywhere near this kind of authority. Get out! Richard's hand slammed on the counter again. Yes, now. Before I lose my patience entirely. Out! You're a joke in front of everyone here. Do you understand? Angela didn't move. She didn't flinch. Every word, every insult, every act of racism and humiliation fed the quiet fire inside her. She felt the tension, catalogued the injustice, and prepared. The lawyer was on the way, The small ally in Ethan was still quietly acting. And the absurdity of the young white man, the cruelty of Richard and Bradley, the fear of the older black clients, all of it was building toward the moment when the tables would turn. Bradley picked up the phone on the counter with exaggerated care, dialing quickly. "Yes, security," he said, voice loud and sharp. "We have a situation here. Someone is causing a disturbance. She needs to be removed. Now." Richard watched, smirking. "Yes. Take her out immediately. And while you're at it, escort those others, the ones waiting in line. They clearly don't belong here either." Angela's eyes met the older black couple. They looked at each other helplessly, confusion and fear etched into their faces. Bradley gestured toward them, laughing. "You too. Out now. Before this gets worse for you." The couple hesitated. One of them spoke softly. "We were just here to make a simple deposit." Richard cut him off sharply. "You're done. Leave, all of you. This bank is for people who belong here. You clearly don't." Staff shuffled nervously. A few murmured, unsure, afraid to step against the authority of Richard and Bradley. The tension in the room was suffocating. Ethan's hands moved quietly over the terminal. He was doing something behind the scenes, pressing keys, sending requests, subtle, almost invisible actions. Bradley noticed a slight movement. "What is she doing now?" he barked. "Trying to sneak something else past us?" Richard laughed harshly. "Oh, yes. She has helpers, no doubt. Pathetic. I want security to make sure nothing else happens. Now." The older couple began to stand, resigned, moving toward the exit as instructed. Bradley smirked and muttered, "Typical. They don't even try. Scared out of their wits. And she still thinks she can play us. Still thinks she belongs here." Angela remained seated. She didn't speak. Her phone buzzed again. She looked at the screen, her lawyer. She answered immediately. "Security is being called," Angela said calmly. "They're trying to remove me and the couple in line." There was a pause on the line. "I'll be there. Wait for me. Do not leave. This is urgent." At that moment, the front doors opened. A man entered, dressed casually, without the appearance of a lawyer. His eyes swept over the room, taking in the commotion. He had arrived earlier than expected, but the bank's chaos caught him by surprise. Richard noticed him immediately. "Ah, well, what do we have here?" he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Another one to back her up? You brought someone from your own to fight us now?" Bradley joined in, laughing. "Yes, look at this. She's called reinforcements. Tell me, sir, are you going to help her cheat the system too?" The lawyer remained, didn't reveal himself surprised to what was happening, and replied, "I am here on official business, urgent matters requiring Angela's signature. I request if you allow us some space." Richard's lips tightened. "Official business? And you expect us to take that seriously? This is convenient, isn't it? A friend, a lawyer, someone to help manipulate the process." Bradley stepped closer, voice low but audible to everyone. "Tell me, lady, do you really think having someone here changes anything? Do you really think you can bully your way through our bank by bringing someone else? How pathetic." The older couple shifted uneasily, glancing at the man who had entered. He raised a hand slightly, but did not yet reveal himself as a lawyer. The moment he stayed silent, letting the tension speak. Richard crossed his arms. "Well, well. Seems she's trying to intimidate us now, bringing someone to fight her battles. You realize, don't you, this doesn't work here? We don't play by anyone else's rules. We run this bank. You're all out of your depth." Bradley's laughter filled the room again. "Look at her. Still trying to manipulate, still scheming. And now she thinks this new friend changes the rules? He can't do anything. None of you can. The system doesn't bend for people like you." The man, still casual, moved slightly closer to Angela, scanning the room. His presence was enough to draw the attention of the staff, who whispered among themselves. Some glanced at him, wondering why someone unknown had just entered. Richard stepped forward, voice sharp and commanding. "I said enough. Security. Remove her, remove them, and make sure nothing else happens. This bank is ours and we don't tolerate disruption." Bradley joined him, smirking at the older couple. "Yes, out. Now. I hope you've learned your place. This is a bank of order, not whatever you think this is." Ethan pressed the final sequence on the terminal. A soft beep echoed, unnoticed by the oppressors. A small process began to initiate, subtly sending Angela's request upward in the system, towards someone who could approve it. Bradley noticed Ethan's slight movement and shouted, "What now? What is she doing? Trying to sneak again?" Richard's voice rose, furious. "Security! I said now, do your job!" The tension reached a breaking point. The older couple hesitated. Angela remained composed. Ethan acted quietly, and the unknown man took a step closer to Angela, still silent but alert. Bradley laughed cruelly at Angles. "He is here for business? Oh, this is Rich. How convenient. Just when you're about to be removed, someone appears. Really? Do you think this changes anything? You think bringing reinforcements makes up for your place in the world?" Richard's tone cut across the murmurs in the room. "Exactly. You're trying to rewrite reality. You're trying to take power you don't deserve. And now a friend shows up to help? Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic." Richard slammed his hand lightly on the counter. "Out. Before I lose my patience entirely. This is my bank. You are not welcome here. Now you understand?" The unknown man finally spoke, calmly but very firmly. "Gentlemen, I suggest you let this proceed. There is business to be done. Everyone here will see it resolved properly." Bradley laughed bitterly. "Oh, so now you're going to fight her battles too. Look at this. This little widow calls her own cavalry. It won't help. You're wasting your time." Angela felt the weight of the room, the humiliation, the anger, the injustice. The older couple remained hesitant, caught between fear and relief that someone was now present. Ethan continued his silent maneuvers, ensuring that her request reached the higher authority who could approve it. The lawyer stepped closer to Angela, his voice calm but carrying weight. "Angela," he said quietly, "there's something you've never known, something your husband arranged before he passed. It's urgent that you understand this now." Angela looked at him, puzzled. "What is it?" He pulled out a folder, the leather worn but official. "These are the legal documents, signed and filed years ago. Your husband secretly transferred ownership of the bank into a trust in your name. You are the majority owner. You were the owner all along." "What?" she said surprisingly. Her hands trembled slightly as she took the papers. Her eyes scanned the documents. Her breath caught. I don't understand. All this time, all these years, he did this for me?" "Yes," the lawyer said, softly but firmly. "You were unaware because he wanted to protect you. But legally, fully, the power is yours. The bank belongs to you. You never needed permission from anyone." Angela held the documents, still absorbing the shock. Her hands trembled slightly, but her mind raced. This can't be real," she whispered to herself. The lawyer leaned closer. "It is real, Angela. Every signature, every filing is legitimate. Your husband planned this carefully. You are the majority owner, legally, fully." Angela's eyes darted around the room. Richard and Bradley were still smirking, unaware of the truth. Her chest tightened. I don't understand. Why would he hide this from me?" "He wanted to protect you," the lawyer said. "He knew you'd never ask, and he knew this bank, could become a source of power and influence if handled wisely. That responsibility is yours, Nicky. Ethan stepped forward from behind the counter. "Miss Harris," he said quietly, "I've worked for your husband for years. He trusted me to protect his legacy. I've known about this for some time. I didn't tell you because it wasn't the right moment, but today I am here to help." Angela turned to him, astonished. You knew?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, and your husband trusted me to assist you when the time came. You have the authority now, but you don't have to navigate this alone. I'm here to guide you, if you allow it." The lawyer added, "Once you sign these forms, everything is official. The control of the bank, all operational authority, transfers to you immediately. You'll have full legal power, everything Richard and Bradley have done until now. It has no bearing anymore." Angela took a deep breath. She looked at the papers again. The signatures, the seals, the official stamps, they were all there. Slowly, deliberately, she signed the documents. The pen scratched across the final line. The silence in the room was palpable. Ethan exhaled softly, a subtle nod of approval. The lawyer gave her a small, reassuring smile. "It's official. You are now the rightful majority owner." Angela's eyes flashed with determination. She turned slowly to Richard and Bradley, who were still staring, confused, skeptical. "I have something to tell both of you," she began, her voice firm, measured, letting the weight of each word sink in. "I am the owner of this bank. All of it, by law, by trust, by my late husband's decision. This is my bank. And from this moment on, you will treat everyone here, staff, clients, visitors, with the respect that is due to them, especially those you have humiliated." Richard scoffed, shaking his head. This is impossible. You can't own this bank. It's a joke." Bradley laughed nervously. "Yeah, right. You expect us to believe that? That little widow, owning a bank? No way." Angela held up the folder. "Check the documents. Every signature, every filing. The law is clear. I am the majority owner. You have no authority here. Not a single word you said or done changes that." Ethan stepped forward. "They don't know it yet, but I've been working with your lawyer. I was loyal to your husband. I know how he intended this day to unfold. Everything is prepared. The authority is real, and it is yours." The lawyer spoke again, voice carrying throughout the room. "Board members and security have been notified. The moment Angela signed, the transfer of power was finalized. You are no longer in charge of this branch. You will comply with all directives immediately or face consequences." At that moment, the front doors opened again. Several board members and head of security walked in, confirming the lawyer's words. Their presence filled the room with authority. Richard's mouth opened, then closed. Bradley looked around, panic creeping in. A board member addressed the room. "We have verified the legal transfer. Ms. Harris is confirmed as majority owner. Her authority is absolute. No employee or client shall be disrespected, harassed, or denied services," Richard muttered. Disbelief etched across his face. How?" Angela, voice steady, addressed them all. "This is no joke. This is my bank. Your arrogance, your mockery, your assumptions about people's worth based on color, it ends now. You will respect everyone in this bank, and you will follow all lawful directives from this moment onward." Bradley swallowed hard, muttering, No, this isn't real." The head of security stepped closer. "You will not interfere with Miss Harris's authority. Any further harassment or attempts to undermine her will be dealt with immediately." Angela's gaze swept the room. Staff whispered, clients watched in awe. The older couple smiled faintly, relief washing over them. Ethan gave a subtle nod. The lawyer placed a reassuring hand on Angela's shoulder. Angela held the signed documents firmly in her hands, her mind racing. She had just realized the truth. She was the majority owner of the bank. But she also knew that experience mattered. This wasn't just about authority. It was about running the bank effectively and restoring dignity to everyone involved. The lawyer turned to her quietly. "Angela, we need to handle this properly. You have authority, yes, but we must proceed carefully. Richard and Bradley should remain in the bank for now under supervision while we work out the next steps. It's important that you, Ethan, and I meet privately to plan." Angela nodded. "Agreed. I don't want rash moves. This has to be done the right way." The head of security was briefed immediately. Richard and Bradley were instructed not to leave, restrained from interfering further, but treated according to policy. Angela, the lawyer, and Ethan moved to a quiet office. Ethan leaned forward. "Miss Harris, your husband trusted me with his legacy. I've seen every document, every plan. Today is just the beginning. We need to ensure the bank runs properly, and that your authority is recognized publicly and legally." The lawyer added, "We also need to make a clear statement to staff and clients. The bank must now operate as a place of equality and fairness. This is both symbolic and legal, and it must be heard by everyone." Angela exhaled slowly. "Then let's do it. Let's make it official." Ethan and the lawyer called in the board members already present in the bank. They arranged a meeting with the staff and clients gathered, ensuring Richard and Bradley remained visible but excluded from active participation. The lawyer motioned for Angela to step forward. "Angela, the first step is to address everyone in the bank. Speak clearly so staff, clients, and visitors hear you. Affirm your authority and your commitment to equality." Angela stepped up to the center of the bank, her voice steady and caring. "From this day forward, this bank is a place of fairness, dignity, and respect for everyone's staff, clients, and visitors alike. No one will be humiliated, harassed, or discriminated against because of their race, status, or appearance. This is my commitment, and my authority is absolute." Whispers filled the room. Staff nodded, some wiping tears from their eyes. The older couple smiled quietly, relief and joy evident on their faces. The lawyer then initiated a board meeting with the bank staff, excluding Richard and Bradley. Angela listened as Ethan and the lawyer explained the legal, operational, and strategic implications of her ownership. Together, they discussed bank procedures, staffing policies, and new compliance measures. During the meeting, Ethan pointed out something important. "Miss Harris, one of the staff members, Jamal, has been collecting evidence over time, videos of misconduct, documents of harassment. He recorded today's confrontation as well. This will be essential in addressing Richard and Bradley formally." Angela nodded, realizing the power of evidence in enforcing accountability. "Good. Let's make sure justice is thorough, not just symbolic." Once the internal meeting concluded, the lawyer and security escorted Richard and Bradley back into the main area. Angela faced them, the staff and clients watching. Richard's expression was tense, then solemn. "Angela, I see now. I was wrong. I behaved poorly, and I apologize." Bradley, however, was visibly frustrated, defiant. This isn't fair. You can't just—" The head of security stepped forward. "Bradley Simmons, your behavior today is unacceptable. You will be escorted out immediately." Bradley shouted in frustration as he was led away. The room fell silent, the shift in power undeniable. Angela turned to the remaining staff and clients, the older couple approaching her. "Today, justice has been recognized. But this isn't just about punishing wrongdoing. It's about making this bank a better place, a model of fairness and equality." She continued, "We will implement new procedures, training programs, and reporting systems to prevent discrimination and harassment. and I plan to submit proposals to the federal regulatory authority changes that could improve not just this bank, but the entire industry. Ethan stepped close, giving a reassuring nod. Ms. Harris, with your leadership, we can do it. We can make systemic changes. The bank and the industry will benefit. Angela smiled faintly, the weight of responsibility balanced with determination. Yes, let's ensure this legacy is one of justice, fairness, and integrity, not just for me, but for everyone who comes through these doors. Staff and clients approached her, expressing gratitude, relief, and hope. The older couple embraced her hand, saying, "You've given us dignity back." The lawyer whispered, "Your husband would be proud." Angela looked around the bank, now filled with order, respect, and renewed purpose. She had reclaimed her power, ensured accountability, and set the stage for broader systemic change. This was not just victory, it was transformation. The bank, once a place of humiliation and prejudice, had become a symbol of justice and equality under Angela Harris's leadership. And with Ethan, the lawyer, and her own vision, she was ready to rise not just for the bank, but for the entire industry.